So you're thinking about developing your land in Spokane or the greater Washington area. Hi, my name is George Anderson with REI Branded Home Buyer, and I am a developer, also a house buyer here in Spokane. I also buy houses all over Washington, and I can help you out in your situation if you need. But today we're going to talk about development and how much resources it actually takes to get there. A lot of time goes into this, and if you don't want to watch this video in total and you want to see how we can help you out, you can go to www.reibrandedhomebuyer.com, and then you can actually put your information in one of those forms. We'll give you a call and we'll set up an appointment to come out and talk to you personally about your house and what your current situation is in. So today's video is about development, how much resources goes into it, how much time goes into it, and I hope that I could keep this video kind of, clear and on point. I'm going to be looking at different things here. I got a bunch of notes by me so I could keep on point, and we'll just jump right into it. I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. My name is George Anderson with REI Branded Home Buyer, and I buy houses. I did a development last year. It was a 14-house subdevelopment that my real estate agent brought to me, and she said, "Hey, George, you want to do this development? I heard that that's what you want to do. We've been friends for a very long time," and that's what I've been telling her. So what we did was we bought a house that had about 2.5 acres in the back portion. And what we had to do is we had to trim that house off from the back acreage. So we did what was called a short plat. A short plat is 9 or less houses. And that includes the house that's already on there. So if that house is there, you can only put 8 more houses on there. If you do a long plat, you could do 10 or more houses. Now, the difference between a short plat and a long plat, a short plat will make it so that you can put private roads in. You don't really need sidewalk or curbing or anything like that. Yes, you'll need swells and all this other stuff that the city's going to ask you to do. But if you do a long plat, you're going to have to put curbing, sidewalk, and the roads. They're going to ask for a lot more, and that is going to be extremely expensive. So, a long plat is actually 10 or more houses. That includes the houses out there, so you could do 1 to 50 or 60 houses at that point. So there's a way of doing this where you can phase out your properties by doing a short plat. So like, hey, say you have 15 acres and you want to do a short plat, you do 5 acres of each, then you could do a long plat on each 5-acre slots so that you can at least make your money go a little bit further. But let's just go over this really fast. The short plat or the short plat and the long plat process here in Spokane Valley, also all around Washington. It differs here and there, and there's also like a lot of pitfalls that a lot of people have fallen into over the time, and I'll go over that with the ecological stuff. Because the environment, they're trying to protect the environment. They're trying to make sure that water doesn't get into the waters of the state. They're going to make sure that dust isn't coming from your property onto other people's properties. And, also dealing with what we call nibbies, not in my backyards, people that don't want you to develop in their area, which, hey, development in urban sprawl is coming our way whether we like it or not. I understand that upsets a lot of people, but if you have land and you want to develop that, maybe this is something that you might want to look at. Maybe you get in contact with me. I'm very, very happy to come out and talk to you and talk to you about your current situation. So when we bought this house with the 2.5 acres in the back area, what we did was we started flipping the house and we started doing some work on it, because that's what we do. We're house flippers, and we decided to do a short plat. So we turned this one property into 2 properties, right? It's short plats, less than 10, and we cut off a very small section of that house, and we flipped that house and we sold it. Then we went into the long plat. Now, the city doesn't like when you do 2 short plats in a row. They just don't like doing that whatsoever. They want you to either do a short plat or a long plat, or a short plat then a long plat. There's a lot of reasons that they have on that, and I'm not exactly sure all of that information. I got to get more information on that. I think it's because of the paperwork and how much how much they have to put into it. In fact, I guarantee that's what it is. So when you're doing a short plat, it takes about 3 to 6 months, and then a long plat can take up anywhere between 6 and 9 months. And there is a lot of paperwork. There's a lot of people looking over your shoulder. And I mean a lot of people looking over your shoulder when you're doing this kind of stuff, because you do not want you having water or contamination coming onto the roadway. A lot of the neighbors are going to have a lot of questions, a lot of concerns about rocks, dirt coming onto the roadway, especially large trucks going to and from and destroying the roadway. So you got to be very, very careful about how they're unloading these big equipment around your area too, because people are going to be watching your back. So what you're going to do is you're going to get a pre-application and you're going to fill that out. It's pretty cheap. It's pretty informal. You go in there and you tell the city, hey, I want to develop my land. I want to do this, this, and this. And the city's going to go, okay, I want to see engineer reports, soil samples. I want to see who's your contractor. We're going to have the city managers come in, and the fire the fire crews come in, and the fire marshal pretty much comes in and tells you exactly what they want when you show them all of these design proposals from the engineer, right, for that parcel, right? So what I did is I had an engineer draft up something, and he cost around $5,000 per lot. That's not cheap. It's really, really expensive, especially when you're doing 14 to 20 to 50 lots. They are going to charge a ton. There's a lot of work that goes into this, because they're going to go and look at where the sewer lines are going to be. They draft up everything, where the fire hydrants are going to be, how far between the houses the fire hydrants are going to be, how many manholes are on that street. If you would have asked me a while back, I would have been buying fire hydrants and manholes and putting them into the ground, and then gifting that to the city, which we'll talk about that here in a second. If you would have told me that, hey George, in 10 years you're going to be doing that, I would have said, like, no way, you're blowing smoke. There's no way I'm going to be doing that. That's extremely expensive. I'm not going to do that at all. But here I am doing it, and I'm also helping people figure out this process too. So you get your pre-application process done, and then you start doing your feasibility and your due diligence. What's going to happen after that pre-application, and what you want to do is you want to have your engineers in there at that point, so the city tells you what you can and can't do within this area. And zoning has a lot to do with it. There's a zoning map for every single city. They're going to tell you, hey, you can build either multifamily in this area, or no, this is zoned industrial or commercial, or R1 through 3. I think there's R1 through 5. I concentrate on R3, and in Spokane, it's like a yellow color, and also multifamily, which is a light brownish color. You'll see that on the city maps. I'll even put some links in the comments below so that you can take a look at them. That way you know I'm not blowing smoke. But they're going to go, what the city zoning committee is going to go through every couple of years, and they're going to reassess that, hey, we can build out from the city center here and there. And there's a lot that goes into that. They got to do traffic studies. They got to do how much water pressure is within the area. There's got to be how much water runoff. Also, which ways the streets which way the streets they want to go, east or west, north or south. I know here in the valley they want a lot more of the streets going east and west, and that's because the water runoff from the mountains going into the valley. They want to be able to capture that water in the aquifers down below. So they don't want water running out into the streets. They want to make sure that you are managing your water on your property, properly. So when you do your feasibility study, you're going to have your engineers. Your soil engineers are the ones that could do the soil compaction tests and stuff like that. Your contractors, and then you're going to do a formal application after that. That means everybody's going to come in. Everybody's going to come in. Fire, city, the health department might show up. They didn't show up at mine, but there's a health department that they want to get their permits also, their permitting fees. And then the city fire is going to come in, and they're going to tell you, hey, we need to have like what's called a hammerhead, and we could get into all that stuff a little bit later on. But also how many fire hydrants need to be on that parcel. within a certain amount of feet from the main road, because their fire hoses can only go so far. Also, they're gonna say, hey, we need this much water gallons per minute coming out of that fire hydrant. So the water district, there's 14 here in municipalities here in Spokane Valley. So you're going to be able to get in contact with those people too, and that is that's fun. I'm going to tell you right now, that's fun, because they're going to tell you one thing, and then the city fire is going to tell you another, and then the city is going to tell you another thing. And it's like the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. There's just a lot of moving parts, and you got to constantly be in contact with all these people. So you're going to do a feasibility and due diligence study on there. And then you're gonna submit your formal application. That means you're gonna gather all the required documents. You're gonna have everybody in the same room, and they're gonna do like a major game plan on your property. And then you're gonna complete and submit that plan once the engineers have their formal documents ready to go, and the city goes, yep, that looks good. We're gonna approve it. You walk outside to the planning or the permit department, and you pull your once the pre-con is done, you're going to do your permit, and you're going to be able to start moving dirt. Now, when you're moving dirt, there's going to be a lot of things that are going to be like flying your way, because environmental people, they're going to be looking over your shoulder, and if say like you're pushing dirt up on a hill, and then you drop the dirt, and then a big plume of smoke or dust goes up, and it starts flying onto your neighbor's cars. Guess who's calling the environmental? Guess who's calling the city? Guess who is ringing down those phones? And guess who gets a phone call when that dust plume or the water or the dirt or the rocks come off your property into other people's properties or make their lives a living heck? They're going to make your life a living heck, especially when they're sitting there listening to all the sounds and noises all day long while this is going on. So you always want to be readily available when this all goes down. So when you're doing environmental stuff, there's a big book right here that I took a class, and it's the Certified Erosion and Sediment Control lead. It's a CECL. This is what they called. So you got to have a CECL, somebody that's going to go over there and look at what's going on. They come up with your certified erosion plan. And they're going to put fencing around your property. They're going to make sure water's not going into the waters of the state, because let me tell you right now, when I was taking this class, they talked about a guy that got fined $700,000 for that water that came off his property and was going into the river. I forgot which city it was in. I know it was on the west side over near Seattle and Tacoma and Puyallup. And I used to live over there, beautiful area. But if water starts going from your site to the water inside, the waters of the state, they are going to be extremely, extremely upset, and they are going to make your life, well, they're just going to make you pay. Let's just say that. Now, when I say water is going into the streams and stuff like that, I'm not talking about clear water, because when there's a lot of water that's going off your site into another site, it's going to be dirty water, and dirty water contains sediment, sand, clay, and dust, all that stuff that goes into the water, and it just dirties up that nice clean water system. That there's a lot of fish in there, and they're trying to protect those fish. And I understand. I really, really do understand. So having a good CECL, which I did the CECL myself, having a good CECL ready to go on your property is just needed. I wish I would have had my plans here. I don't have them right here. I can actually share that in the next one. But having a good CECL around, that way they could just go by the property every single day, make sure the fences are not falling down. Because when you're moving dirt, you have what you call as little you'll see those little black fences that go around the whole perimeter of the property. And sometimes when you're pushing dirt around, they actually get pushed down. So you have to go over there and actually fix those along the way. You don't want dirt going onto the neighbor's property. You want to get the permits, the correct permits. If there are a certain amount of trees getting removed on your property, you got to get permits for that too. And I've known that. There's a lady over at the Spokane Valley permit department that actually told me about that. So if you're removing a certain amount of trees, you got to get permits to take those off. let's talk about the water, sewer, gas, electrical that goes into this. When you're paying a contractor, I want to say the contractor's around $50,000 per lot, which what I'm saying is per house that you want to put on this property. We did about 14 houses. It's about $15,000, or it was about $50,000 per lot. You can do the math. It's pretty expensive. And that will include the sewer. They're pulling the sewer and all that stuff onto the property, the water, and then the contractors cannot touch Avista gas and electric. So when you do Avista gas and electric, you have to get in touch with the development department over at Avista, which is here in Spokane, and have them come over and do this stuff. Now, they won't dig the trenches out. You have to have your contractor dig the trenches out, and then Avista will come through and lay the pipe. Also, you have to have certain sands that you got to put underneath the gas line so that you don't have static electricity or anything like that, and create there's just a really, really expensive sand that you got to buy in order to put around the gas line, and it's got to be a certain length away from the electrical line too, so that you don't have any static electricity firing off that gas. Right? They want everything as safe as possible. So when you're putting in the sewer line and and you have the city watching you, and you're compacting the sewer lines, you want to make sure that you have no bellies inside that sewer line. So there's right after the very, very end of this. Before you even put in the roads, you're going to have another company, which is your soil engineers. I use All West over here. Shout out to All West. They are a great company. All West Engineers here in Spokane Valley is amazing. I absolutely love working with those people, and they need to work closely with your engineers. I use Simpson Engineering. Shout out to Simpson Engineering also. They're over there off of Argonne. All West is over here off of Sullivan in Spokane. So shout out to both those companies. They are the best. I want to make sure that they get all of the business that they can. They've helped me out and walked me through a lot of this process. Again, if you don't want to do this by yourself, you can also call me. I'll put my information down below in the description. So let's move on. Once the sewer line's in, you're compacted, there's no bellies in it or anything like that, because the city's going to run a sewer scope down there. Once the soil engineers say, hey, everything's good, you compacted the earth, good, because you don't want to have any potholes or anything like that coming through later on down the road on the roads. You don't want to dig this stuff up, after the road's put in. Your costs are going to go up if you have to cut out a section of the road and then put dirt underneath that belly area where the sewer line is at. I'm telling you, you do not want to do that. That is going to be extremely expensive. And then also, you want to make sure that you're dealing with the right contractors, right? If these contractors are going into the road, like to the main road, because you got to get a permit to shut down the road also. I have heard of people closing down a road without any permits, digging into the road, pulling sewer onto their property, water onto their property, and the city had no idea this was going on. And one of the guys was driving by, major fines. They shut down the project. It was game over for that person. Let's just say that it was not. I was appalled about how much money that person had that was fined. You want to do this all correctly, folks. Shutting down a major roadway to pull water, sewer, electric, gas off the main roadway onto your property, you have to shut down a street. And you have to get approval from the city saying that you can shut down this street. And you want to do it all at once. Otherwise, the city's not going to let you shut it down again, because fire, school buses, ambulances all have to be redirected around that area. All right, let's go for gas and electrical. Gas and electrical, or Vista, and it cost us for 14 lots. It was $9,058 for 14 lots, just for them to put the gas lines in, and that's not even including all the sand that we built, or that we actually bought, and all of the construction, because the contractor had to dig the trenches out. Again, Avista will not do that, so that's how much it costs just for Avista just to put the lines in. For the electrical, again, Avista will not dig the trenches. You have to dig the trenches yourself, and then Avista charged us $33,250 for 14 lots. That was $2,375 per lot. Again, this is very, 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 very expensive to do all this stuff. That's not including the $500,000 that we had to get the contractors, the $300,000 just to buy the land. You can tell how this can add up really, really quickly, along with the holding costs, because you're going to borrow the money. I mean, if you have the money laying around, that's great. But if you have to borrow the money from somebody, you have to pay monthly for interest payments on this. And then also, when you do at the very end of this, the city's going to say, hey, do you have a certification package saying that the streets were put in correctly, the water lines were put in correctly, the sidewalks were put in correctly? What is the soil compaction test along the way from your soil engineers? That would be All West. Again, love that company. They're the best. They put a certification package together, and then they give that to the city. You're going to give that to the city, and they're going to go through that certification package and make sure that everything's there, because it's going to go into that file for that specific plat that you are doing. Then, at the very end, you are going to gift, I said it, gift, like a present, to the city, all the work that you have done. All of it. So, all the water lines, all the sewer lines, the fire hydrants, the sidewalks, the roadways, all of that gets given to the city for free. And they're going to tell you, yeah, in that certification package, you did it right. We'll take it. We'll accept this. But they're going to send out an inspector, and they're going to inspect everything to make sure it's done correctly into their specs. Now, I was very lucky. I was working with the city inspector the entire time. I had a lot of time to sit there and make sure that this was taken care of properly. Usually they come with a big old giant checklist at the very end. I want this fixed, I want this fixed, I want this fixed. But we were fixing it along the way because I was in contact with that person all the time. And they get paid to take your phone calls. So give them a call. And if you don't want to do this yourself, again, you can give me a call and I'll come out and handle it for you. Obviously, I would love to partner with you on this, and I would love to buy your land here in Spokane or Washington and develop it if you don't want to do this, or we could become partners and we could work together on it. I'm actually getting ready to partner up with another person right now on another project, and I was just driving by and I saw them standing outside their house. I talked to them and they said they had no clue how much work goes into this, and that I had a lot of information. This is a 22-minute video, so yeah, there's a ton of information. So I could give that to you. Once all that's done, you give it to the city, and then they go through the process of doing the finalized inspections. Then they'll accept that property from you. Then you could start issuing permits for each house that build on that property. It's a very, very long process. It's very, very expensive. And I hope this video has helped you out, given you a lot of information. I'm pretty sure that I've left a lot of stuff out. I'm going to do some more videos here in the future about this. If you want to go to our website, www.reibrandedhomebuyer.com, check us out. My name is George Anderson from REI Branded Home Buyer. And thank you for sitting through this 23-minute video. It's almost 25 minutes. Very, very sorry. Lots of information to give out. We'll go over each aspect of development over time, and I hope that this helped you out in the process. So, again, have a blessed day. I'm George from REIBrandedHomebuyer.com, and we'll check it out later on. Bye-bye.